The Washington Post reports that Floridians, however, are in favor of the Governor DeSantis' response to COVID. Most recently, the governor blasted the FDA for being in bed with Big Pharma, which they are. And some have pointed to the fact that unlike most politicians, he's still paying off student debt, doesn't trade stocks, clocks in at the lower end of the wealth bracket compared to most presidential candidates.
Yeah, he's got all that law school debt. Relatable to DeSantis. If we look back to why Trump won, it's because he at least postured as a populist, anti-establishment candidate that people wanted over Hillary Clinton. In light of DeSantis' background, do you think he could become that anti-establishment candidate over Donald Trump? Despite this pedigree, we know it's not about pedigree, right? Because,
Right.
Trump has his own, Wharton and stuff in his background. It's all vibes. It's not at all about what's on people's transcripts. Who do you think can out-populist the other? I'll go to you, Jordan.
I think Trump, even though it's complete nonsense that he's not a populist, would still out-populist DeSantis. I mean, it doesn't get media attention, but DeSantis, he's your usual Republican. I mean, he's given close to $1 billion in tax cuts to corporations. He loved Disney and showered them with breaks before they, the crime of coming out against the Don't Say Gay bill. He's got kind of that pedigree of Ivy League schooling that is, I don't know how you spin that as populist. And contrary to his, I'm fighting Big Pharma, he rakes in money from Big Pharma and other big donors. So Trump presumably, would run again in the primary, self-funding to a certain degree, and use that over DeSantis.
Adam, do you think what DeSantis has done with COVID is an advantage to him? Because I know actually a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservative media folks, really, really liked the DeSantis approach to the pandemic, defended it, et cetera. An approach that was obviously wanting to get vaccines distributed, but no mandates of any kind, even going so far as to not allow I think cruise lines to even private institutions to require mandates. So do you see the COVID question as a kind of advantage DeSantis scenario?
Yes, actually I do. Talking to Trump supporters, actually one of the things that they really disliked about Trump was 100% behind the vaccines, while many of his supporters are actually very skeptical. I've even seen where he had rallies and he mentioned the vaccine and the crowd's voice would kind of shake and murmur because they're not 100% behind it, but Trump is he wants to take credit for everything that he does, and everything that he does is perfect. So he's never going to back down from his position of furthering the vaccines and believing that the vaccines are an ultimately good thing because he was involved with it. If the tables were turned and it was somebody else, if it was Biden who pushed for the vaccines, Trump would likely say the opposite. So I in no way think that Trump believes that the vaccines are an ultimately great thing, that everybody should get it because he actually thinks it's a great thing and everybody should get it. I believe he likes the win. He believes that's a win because anything that was accomplished under his term is considered a win in his eyes. Whereas the Republican voters, or just the moderates in between, the Trump supporters, very skeptical about the vaccines. I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe that Trump was in full support of the mandates. I think that down the line, people wanted to make sure that this was a choice for people. So the mandate part is a little bit different, but as far as the vaccines and thinking that the vaccines are a godsend brought to us, Trump is all behind it. And I think that really turns off a lot of his voter base.
What a fascinating tee-up to have Donald Trump potentially saying, I'm proud. This is my vaccine. I did this. I cured America. And look what happened in Florida. Look how many people died in Florida. It's one of the worst states for deaths because of Ron DeSantis, and have another Republican arguing, the opposite. And then also have Donald Trump potentially attacking DeSantis over, hey, I know real estate. I'm so good at real estate. It's impossible to buy in Florida. It's impossible to do these things in Florida. And having those kinds of issues really vetted and before the public within a party in the way that we so rarely have. It could be, I think, an interesting kind of reorientation of what the ideological groundings are within the Republican Party. So I appreciate both of you joining us today.